Hello and welcome to this new series where we are talking about the future of audio streaming in India. I am Nitika Kakkar and today I am joined by Shreeraman Thiagarajan, the CEO and founder of Agrahyah Technologies and Avaz.com, which is the largest spoken word audio and podcast network in Indian languages. A very warm welcome to you, Shreeraman, and thank you for joining us and giving us the time to have this interaction.
Thank you, Nikita. My pleasure to being here as well.
Thank you. So I would like to start off the discussion by asking you, if you could tell us a little bit more about Agrahyah Technologies and Avaz.com and what is their purpose?
Right. So Agrahyah started 6 years ago, when the new wave of first-time internet users were coming online, thanks to Geo and the falling internet rates. So we realized there is a need for creating technology and content to be served in Indian languages so that, after the first 100 million internet users, the next wave of people coming, they would be preferred. They would prefer to be served in their own language. So Agrahyah is a tech company. What we started doing was we used voice technologies first, like Alexa is an example of that. So even if you don't read or write, you can definitely speak. And we saw this as the next wave of human-machine interaction. Like we used to have type, then we had touch, now we have voice, right? So you don't even have to touch anymore. You can simply say your command. So in that journey, we realized that, okay, if you're speaking to a machine or any inside your car, in your TV remote or anywhere, the output format is going to be audio in nature, right? So you can say, Alexa, play me a song, play me news or jokes or anything. The content is audio. And we realized that bulk of Indian audio content is limited to music of some kind, whether it's movie or devotional, spiritual, and so on. So we realized the gap for every other content other than audio, music in that sense. So we started working on a product called Avaz.com. So till date, the company does two things. Agrahyah has gone to be a full service technology company. We work in mobile, cloud, web, and all those things. And the company runs the product called Avaz.com, which was launched in Jan 2019. We launched with Hindi, and today we are in 5 languages: Hindi, English, Marathi, Urdu, Gujarati, right? And the specialty about Avaz is we create all the content ground up. We own the IP. We only create original content. We do not rely on user-generated content so that we can really produce studio quality, professional quality content for our audience.
So Shreeraman, as India is one of the third largest podcasting industries in India, which we know, and approximately it is estimated that 150 million Indian users tune into audio streaming platforms and consume audio technologies. And with Avaz being one of the leading platforms, indigenous platforms that are providing this service, there is more of a responsibility on you and on Avaz to kind of set the trend than to be, just a followers of what is happening. So when we talk about the future of audio technologies in India, where is it that you see and you are charting the path, and how do you see it going forward?
Right. So very well said. When you are early in the category, sometimes you do enjoy first mover advantage as much as you also enjoy first mover disadvantage, because you are kind of a snow plow making the way for the whole category to grow. And a lot of experiments we do turns out to be profitable and successful, but a lot of them do not as well, right? I'll give you an example. We thought, okay, Bollywood is big in India, cricket is big in India, so obviously these two should be on audio as well. So we got some cricketers, we got some Bollywood celebrities to create audio content for us, and it did not take off. So what we realized is, people like to watch a celebrity, not hear a celebrity, unless they have something extraordinary to say, and that's usually not the case. They look good, they emote well on screen, and so on and so forth. Same with cricket, unless there is a real match or a real sport going on, real action going on, people are not so much interested in the story about cricket or how something came to be and so on and so forth, right? So at the same time, anything we do investments in terms of technology, you spoke about it. We recently introduced Dolby Atmos in ours. So we launched a few shows in Dolby. and we are now working with Dolby team to create more shows in Dolby Atmos sound, so that even no matter what kind of headphones or phone you're listening to, the sound quality is truly immersive, right? So these are some of the things that are advantageous to us. We are the first to do it in the category. And also, you know that Geo, ours is available on Geo set-top box. We are available inside a Paytm inbox. We are available on Ola Play. We are available at 14 different places that we own and control. So we try to distribute it as much as we can, and we learn from the experiments, like I said, we do, and see where new audience can be unlocked, what kind of content do they like, how can we tailor our content to their preference, and so on. So yeah, the responsibility for us is to keep on doing more experiments. And of course, if anyone else in the category wants to learn from us or ask us, I'm always there. That's why we participate in industry forums like yours and share what we have learned, so that others don't have to do the same mistake that we did.
Very interesting. One thing that I would also like to know from you is you talked about audio distribution and the importance of accessibility on various platforms for a component like this to grow. I am guessing that marketing is also a very big part of this entire endeavor. So one thing that I would like to understand from you is that in today's ecosystem, how do you market sound?
Yeah, so the challenge about anything that's new or novel or upcoming is always, how do people discover that you even exist, right? So that's always the key. So there are traditional ways, there are unconventional ways here. Traditional ways is, you have a structured marketing program where you are spending for app installs, you are driving user acquisition campaigns, and so on. And then, of course, there are some out of the box. For example, we partner with movies where our logo is seen in the movie. We are partnered with, like I said, the Ola cab where we are featured there, or the Geo set-top box where we are featured and people discover. So it works both ways. Sometimes you need to have a professional or a earmark certain budget for doing performance campaigns and so on. And then of course there are promotional tie-ups that helps you get growing as well.
Interesting. In terms of you, like as you said, Avaz is now present in 5 languages, and I would encourage all the viewers and the listeners who are tuning into this interview today to definitely go check out Avaz if you haven't so far, because there is a variety of content that is there. It is spanning from devotional to comedy to even non-fiction based, information based bites. So what I also want to understand from you is that in terms of content, what is the way forward that Avaz is charting, and what is it that you have noticed in terms, what is the trend that you have noticed on content consumption from Indian audiences, on the basis of which you are charting your way forward?
Right. It's fairly simple. People, if you look at, we have 23 genres of content, but the top three are always humor, stories, and spiritual, right? So what we do is, it's not about getting more users. For us, the priority is keeping our current users, right? So we have more than 1 million people who come to us on web app every month. So for us, it's really important to keep them occupied, because if you keep on getting fresh 1 million customers every month, we have achieved nothing, right? So what we do is, in terms of vertical, we go deeper and deeper. Let's say you like humor content. For us, it could take 2-3 weeks to produce, but for you, it could be only a 30-minute drive from your home to office, and you have done with that content, right? So then you would find nothing new in the app, and you wouldn't come back to us. So what we do is go deeper and deeper in a particular genres. For example, humor, we keep on investing in creating new humor episodes, or spiritual, we keep on creating more and more in the same genre, right? So, and also horizontally, we try experimenting. We know we have true crime, we have fiction crime, we have romantic, we have friendship, and so on and so forth. So all this is to attract newer audience. Like, people may not everybody likes spiritual. Maybe people like to listen to a romantic story, and or people like to listen about friendship stories, and so on and so forth. So we keep on adding newer horizontal content to experiment and see if that unlocks a new market segment for us, if we can acquire new type of customers who haven't previously been with us. And also children's content, in that sense, like parents play it to their kids, because it reduces the screen time. Like there is the storytelling, but there is no screen, right? So it helps the calm down the kid or put them to bed and so on and so forth. So we are trying to create content for every individual out there, whether you are 3-year-old or 80-year-old. We are trying to create content for every one of you. So it's typically like a general entertainment channel, what a Star TV would do, what a Sun TV would do. They try to keep it as generic as possible so that it can appeal to a mass set of audience.
Very interesting. You spoke about, that your content is tailored in such a way that it can appeal to a 3-year-old and also to an 80-year-old. I'd also like to know from you that in terms of the users or the subscribers or your listeners who keep coming back to you, have you done kind of a demographic analysis as a part of that? And can you provide us any insight as to what is the major chunk of listeners that are coming into you age or gender wise?
Right. Yeah, we again, we are a tech company, and data and tech, insights are the driving force for us. So yes, we have every granular metrics we can think of. So about 63% of our audience are aged between 18 to 34. So if you were to further divide this, it's about 32% each, like 18 to 24 and 24 to 34. So it's the young urban moving audience who prefer to come to us. And major use case is when they are on the move. That's when audio comes to play, like whether they are driving or they are in a public transport. So whenever they are traveling is when the number one use case for audio is. And second is also the demographic reflects the internet penetration in India, kind of 70% male, 30% female. That's almost like the subset of internet users in India as well. So the and top markets, for example, for us, because we launched first in Hindi, Lucknow, Indore, Jaipur, Patna. These are the top markets for us because our Hindi appeal is always higher because we launched with it almost 4 years ago. And if you look language wise, English is more popular in metros. Marathi is more popular in Mumbai and I'm sorry, Maharashtra and the regions around Maharashtra. Um, Urdu is very popular in UP, and also surprisingly, we get audience from everywhere for Urdu content. So and of course we have Gujarati, which is popular in Gujarat, right? So we want to, like I said, go after one set of audience, periodically. So and also keep at it. Like it's not enough to launch 5 shows in Gujarati. That's not much of a programming for us, right? So in fact, 2 years ago we launched Marathi. Now we have more than 130 shows in Marathi, right? So same with Gujarati, we launched with 6 shows. Now we have close to 50 shows. So, and we will keep on investing so that we go deeper in one language while we also horizontally expand with more languages, more factors, more genres, and so on.
It's very what got my attention a bit was that when you said that there are kind of people are listening into like tuning into hours also when they are on the move. It's a very similar phenomena as the radio industry, right? That how radio has its peak hours, morning and
Right,
evening
yeah.
hours. Yeah, like it's prime time. So there is one question that always keeps popping up, and I think this is the right time to ask you that it's the question of radio eating into the podcast industry or podcast eating into the radio industry.
Right.
Or even now we see that almost all big national radio channels, they have a variety of podcasts also that they are into. So they are it's also one of the things that is also said is now they are trying to piggyback on the popularity of the podcast industry to make themselves relevant. So I would like to know from you that with these similarities still existing in terms of the consumption of audio as far as the users are concerned, what is your take on these aspects of one piggybacking on the other, or is one eating into the other? What do you think about it?
Sure. See, first and foremost, radio in India comes from a space of scarcity, right? There is wave one, wave two, all the restrictions around what content they can play on air, what they cannot play on air. There's a lot of regulations around it, restrictions around it. And also the music is owned by the labels. So there is, they have rights only for the terrestrial radio. They cannot play the same sound or music in their mobile application and so on. So radio has a lot of confines and always comes from scarcity in that sense. So what they're trying to do is transform themselves digitally, right? So you look at almost all popular radio stations today have a mobile version of it. And the programming is almost like what video OTT went through 10 years ago. If you look at Sony Live 10 years ago, 2014-15, 80% of their content was catch-up TV, or Hotstar when they launched 10 years ago. 80% of their content or people came to the app for catch-up TV. That means they couldn't watch it when it was broadcasted on air. They came to the app to catch up to it later, right? So before every company launched their own app, they used YouTube to do it. You could almost find every serial of Set and Star on YouTube. But once they launched Hotstar and Sony Live, they started reducing the dependency on YouTube, and you have to go to their app to catch up with their content. And of course, now they have a mobile first strategy like, hey, it premieres only on Hotstar, it premieres only on Sony Live. Some of them are synchronized between TV and app, but some are app only, and it become a business by itself, right? So radio stations are going through the same journey. So they have tons and tons of old content like a Mirchi Murga or whatnot. They have all this content which they want to. I mean, it was aired. Maybe you can air it once or twice, but you can't keep airing the same stuff. But if you were to create a repertoire and put it on an app, people can go and listen to it on demand. So the first step for almost all radio companies is they own a lot of IPs which are not dependent on the labels, put it in a box called their own mobile app, and then work on adding fresh content, fresh podcast as we know it, or audio shows, if that's a better term to call it. So they could eat or catch up the growing market share in terms of audio listeners, right? So I wouldn't say anyone is eating into anyone. In fact, radio companies have woken up only recently to this, right? So they should have done it probably 6-7 years ago, and I wouldn't have existed if they had done it. Let me be clear in that, right? So okay. Nevertheless, it's not too late. We are a country of 1 billion people, and audio is relatively still underpenetrated from a mobile point of view. Radio has much higher listenership. If you look at Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat, a survey indicates about 60% of the country heard it. Like that's like 600 million people or more, right? So radio does have its power to go anywhere. But if you're looking at it from a technology driven or a mobile driven, that's very nascent. And I wouldn't say anyone is eating into anyone. In fact, more investments that come in, like from established institutional publishers, they have deep pockets, they can invest in high quality content. And only if and when people taste high content do they want to give their time and attention to it. If there's only flimsy content, if there's only low production budget content, people are not really interested, because today we are used to the production quality of a Disney that puts in $1 billion for a movie, right? Or even you look at Netflix, or you look at any of the video players, major video players, they have huge budget, all in 3-digit crores, 4-digit crores, right? So people are used to high quality production when it comes to content. And if you are, having two mic and two people speaking random stuff and calling it a production, that won't cut it, right? So it's good to have radio companies who have a professional studio, who have professional voiceover artists, who have story team, content team, sound team, music team. So when all these good quality teams of people come together, that drives the category further. So the answer is, more the merrier, and it only expands the category, but it's not cannibalizing or nobody's eating into anyone's share yet.
Talking about shares and the numbers that we have been going forward. So I'll ask you a very simple question. In today's time, how do you make money off of sound or audio?
Right. So there are multiple ways, Nikita. It's not that complex. One is you need to understand who owns the IP, right? When you own the IP, the monetization avenues are more. In fact, the first and foremost thing you can do is licensing. Like our content, a sliver of our content is licensed by Spotify. They used to license it from us. We have a deal going with other OTT players as well, because we have a good amount of original content. So other audio players, if they want to get a head start in the market, they license it from us. So that's a revenue for us. Second, if you're able to have your own distribution, like if you have your own app, your own website, and so on, your audience, so you're able to give them better advertising led model as well, where they don't have to pay a subscription fee. It can be ad supported, but the ads are relevant because your audience. I'm not serving a wrong ad to a wrong audience, right? So if you're able to own the technology and the distribution, then you can look at targeted advertising, right? Third one is sponsorships. You can go after brands, and if you have a cohort of audience who are like matching the brand, you could ask for sponsorship. Like We went to IBM and said, look, our English audience are CXOs and decision makers who do create a podcast about cloud computing, and they were happy to do it, right? In fact, you could even be an independent podcaster. Let's say you're talking about parenting, right, for toddlers, and if you have 5,000 committed audience to you for every episode, you could go to a Johnson or you could go to a Huggies and say, look, I have attention of 5,000 moms. Would you like to be a sponsor? And they would be very happy to do that, right? But if you have a mix of everything and if you don't know who's your audience, then sponsorships becomes difficult, right? So that is the third one. First is licensing. Second is sponsorships. Third one is subscription, right? Again, if you're able to give audience good quality content, you can ask for subscription on a monthly or a yearly basis. I think a few of the players in India are reasonably good at doing this now. And fourth one is, podcast as a service. Like a lot of corporates, enterprises, individuals, they want to have their own podcast. And if you are a podcast company who can spare a set of your technicians and production team, you can create podcast for other players and get paid for it. In fact, we used to run the Economic Times Morning Brief podcast for 2 full years until they had their own in-house team who's doing it since last 3 months now, right? So that's another option to do it. Fourth one is, having a very soft or a native promotion. Like you can say, I will mention your product during the conversation, or I can have one of your, let's say I can have a leadership team from a particular company as a guest in my podcast, and they can talk about their product and services, right? So these are 4 or 5 different models we discussed. If you apply creativity, there can be even more ways you can monetize it, right? I also know some of the international podcasters, what they do is they create a video along with the audio and they put the video on YouTube. So there is also YouTube ads that's running in that podcast. So like I said, if you are creative enough, monetization is not a difficult task at all.
So you've talked about YouTube. So there is one thing that I will definitely like your comment on, that one thing that very interesting phenomena which has happened, kudos to the podcasting industry, is that almost it has given people a different sense of being able to use their voice as and how they like the content production aspect and the content creation aspect within the audio stream has increased dramatically over the last few years. So much so, and like basically now anybody who is a somebody launches their own podcast, and a lot of that is being done on their own personal YouTube channels, and wherein even if the podcast is for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, they have dedicated thousands of followers who are actually not just sitting and listening to the podcast but also watching them. So in this aspect of wherein video has again become an aspect of what started as a sound only medium, is the audio able to hold on its own?
Okay, so very good question. Answer is kind of. So the point is, video is always big. Video is universally appealing. Video is ubiquitous. Everyone, like whether you're a toddler or you could be of any age, from any category, any demographic, video appeals to you because it's fairly simple. You watch and you get the context, right? But you look at audio, there is a set of people who love audio, right? In fact, they appreciate audio truly, and they think audio is their more preferred way. So that is always a subsegment of people, and it's never going to be as big as video, right? So but it's going to be relatively small. I would say it could be probably 10% of the entire video market from that point of view. So video, like I said, video is the whole world. But if you were to look at the 10 or 15% of your demographic who love audio, if you can hold on to them, if you can get all of them, and if you can hold on to them, that is good enough. So I'll give you a parallel. Let's say food, right? So rice or wheat, those who cultivate it, the market share is big, right? People cultivate rice and wheat because it's a staple food, and every second person eats either rice or wheat on a daily basis. But let's take something like an almond or a cashew or a pista, right? That is never going to be as big as rice. It's a cash crop. It's a niche product. But if you can be the number one player in an almond, or if you can be the number one player in a cashew, or if you could be the number one player in pista, right? That's what I'm talking about. So it's not fair to compare audio and say, will it be as big as video? I don't think so. But if you could get the maximum market share or profitable market share or relevant market share in audio, that is good enough.
Great. One thing that you also mentioned, and I think this is the backbone of any industry when we talk about it, it's collaborations and partnerships, right? And one thing that I also noticed on Avaz is that among the channels that you host, you also have Big FM, and you also have HT. And we know that HT has their own radio channels, three of them. So how do these collaborations or partnerships, they come into place, and what is the strategy behind going forward with something like this?
Right. So how did it come to be? We asked nicely. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. The second point is, see, again, if you look at a traditional radio company, they come from confines, a lot of confines, right? So we were the first to go and even ask them, saying, hey, look, we are completely digital. You have a lot of content. Would you like to see what happens if your content is exposed to my audience? Right. And they are happy about it. In fact, it's a learning ground for them to see how what happens if you're able to get data about your listeners, because currently radio relies on very conventional metrics of measuring, book and pen and survey and polls, right? But I have real-time data of my listeners. I know where they stopped, where they skipped, what they listened to, what they heard before this, what they heard after this. And these companies are happy to get those data and information as well. And that helps them further develop their digital first strategy, right? So that's the strategy there. We can stand on their shoulder because they have huge library of content and experience in this category. They can stand on my shoulder to understand how technology works, how distribution works, and so on. So that's what it is.
So do you think there is more? Do you think there is more promise in such partnerships and collaborations in the future, as far as the Indian audio industry is concerned?
Always, I did an entire TED talk called "Compete, Collaborate, and Don't Compete." So I
Right.
believe in that, and I don't think it should be a short-term one. We want to have strategic relationships with all the audio players, all the content players, as far as we could go. It only helps grow the category, and audience have better choice.
Hmm. One thing that I just also, as we are moving closer to the conclusion of this interview, there is one thing that I do want to ask you is, it is always said that the audience base, there is a contention whether the audience market, is it static or is it increasing? Of course, in terms of digital, we know that it is increasing, it is booming, but somehow still the radio industry has a larger audience and a larger share in the market of listeners. So where do you think a saturation point can come or will come, as far as the influx of digital into the audio in India is concerned?
Yeah, okay. Very, very complex question, but let me tell you, no audience could ever be static. New people are born every day, old people are sent to heaven every day. So audience are a moving parade, right? So it's never static. That is one. Second, a lot of people haven't tried audio yet. When I say a lot, I'm talking about like 500 million people. And when I say they haven't tried audio, I'm talking about audio from their phone or like an app and not a radio, right? So the whole term podcast itself is very new. So that's why we refrain from the term. We call it as an audio show and whatnot, so that people can understand it's an audio entertainment or audio content and not two people conversing, right? The podcast term sounds very foreign to us, or at least to the non-English audience we are targeting. So that's one. Second, radio will continue to be, in fact, in many markets, Australia, US, radio is still much bigger, radio is stronger. And that's because people have a lot of drive time. Like all these markets are um, uh, uh, places where people drive on their own. So there is very less scope for video when you're driving. So it's audio first. And the amount of technology and the investment that has gone into that, serving customers on their car, like Sirius FM or Pandora and so on, RCA, all these companies, SCA, sorry, in Australia, right? So all these companies have put in a lot of investments to cater to audience when they're driving as well. So I think in India that will also be true. However, we don't see people owning a small transistor anymore in their pocket, but it's their mobile phone. So now the thing is, radio companies cannot just serve a curated set of playlist of music, because that has been unbundled, like Spotify, Ghana, Savan, almost all of them give you a playlist. So you don't expect a radio station to do a curated list and give it to you. So this is where there is more opportunity to create talk shows, to create user engagement, to create more entertainment in a very different format other than film music that's streamed. So it won't be saturated as long as companies can keep pushing their innovation quotient and create new formats in audio. And of course, getting more people even try it for the first time. I think that's the bigger task. A lot of people haven't even tried it. But once they try it, once they can get habituated to it, the category only grows.
Wonderful. We are almost towards the end of our interview. Before we close, I would like to know from you, what are some of your favorite podcasts or your favorite audio shows, and where do you like to invest your time listening?
Yeah, okay. Think of it like the best barber in town has the bad haircut. So I'm almost like that. I'm busy, going after some of the prominent guests for my shows, or creating new properties, or setting up teams in different markets and so on. I get very little time to listen to my own content or any content. But given a choice, I usually prefer content that is upskilling. So I would like to know more so about technology, AI. In fact, I even listen to some sports related podcast. I'm not much of a sports person, but I like to hear the stories behind sports and so on, right? So that's where you would find me listening to audio on things that can upskill me on new things like technology or culture and anthropology and so on, or analysis of sports and what insights or what business strategies can be derived from sports and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we are all just slaves to good storytelling techniques.
Yeah, ultimately.
Okay, thank you so much, Shreeraman. This has been very, very insightful, and it was great to know some of the industry points of view. When we're talking about audio, the future of audio in India, and we hope to do more such interactions with you, so that we can get to learn more.
My pleasure, Nikita. Thank you for having me here. Long live audio.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.